It is often said that power fades with weakness. However, this is actually not true. Power fades due to emotions. A moment of anger, a fleeting moment of pride, a thoughtless response, these small moments can destroy everything a man has built over years. Because the truth is, in that moment, you're no longer thinking, you're starting to feel. No one can control someone who is moved by their emotions. The world no longer needs chains to enslave you. It simply makes you feel anger, it makes you jealous, and leads you to give excessive value to everything. This is how modern power works. Not through hegemony, but through manipulation. The strongest mind is not the loudest voice or the bravest heart. It is the one who remains calm when everyone else is burning in the fire. This video will share how Machiavelli cleverly used emotional control to defeat his enemies, the ways to gain loyalty, and how he remained consistently protected amid chaos. You will understand how emotions can be a weapon, how they manipulate you, and how you can achieve calmness. In the end, you will not only see emotions differently but also begin to use them in a different way. Today, the word weakness has started to hide under the innocent expression of being true. Men mistake emotional honesty for emotional exhibition. As if opening up all their feelings makes them deeper. As if sharing their pain makes them meaningful. Society rewards this too. Share your truths, they say. Be vulnerable, they say. But do you know the hidden message of the modern world? Be easy to understand. Be easy to manage. Because worshipping emotions means exactly this. Emotions have become a form of belief. And men, without realizing it, have started to worship this. Feel more, they say, feel anger, feel empathy, feel sadness, connect. But in fact, the system allows you not to think, but to only react. Because a thinking man is a dangerous one. But an emotional man is always predictable, and therefore controllable. As they say, power comes with controlling emotions. Machiavelli realized this long ago. The easiest way to control people is to control their emotions. To control someone, you don't need an army, you only need their anger or guilt. If you can make that person feel proud emotionally, if you can make them feel special, then no one will question the bond they have with you. Machiavelli long ago said, to act without understanding the facts is to act on appearances alone. Because people don't act according to facts, they act according to appearances. You shape what they feel and influence what they believe. That's why you should observe the world around you carefully. Because you are being emotionally directed rather than being informed. Every headline is a trap, every piece of content is a provocation. Every debate is a living bait set to lure you. And when you fall into this trap, while reacting with anger or fear, you're no longer acting with your power. You're obeying with your will. This is the invisible yoke of the modern era. Not censorship, not violence, but emotion. The question now is, who controls how you feel? Because once you realize this, no leader, system, or insult can control you again. Now, let me tell you this, emotions don't make you human. They only make you predictable. And in a world based on manipulation, predictability is the beginning of defeat. Power doesn't come from expressing every emotion you feel, it comes from understanding every emotion that tries to control you and choosing instead to remain silent. Yes, remaining silent in a world based on emotion is the most effective way to stand against the noise. If you want to stand against the noise, the first thing you must do is stop reacting. A person who reacts emotionally is always controlled by others. Stop creating drama. Don't confuse thinking with feeling. Never forget that the world sees you as an emotional person. But you will not choose to be an emotional one. That's why start to understand how this system works, and when you take biological control, the manipulations won't affect you. Because your biggest competitor will actually be your own mind. Everything starts in your body. Those old connections, the bridges that react without thinking. Manipulators focus exactly on these. Without you even realizing it, you trigger these emotional chemicals. Cortisol, adrenaline, the fight or flight reactions, and suddenly you feel like you're in a conflict. But at that moment, your mind is unstoppable. Manipulators knowingly use that moment. They don't need to defeat you. They only need to make you emotional. Once they succeed, everything is lost. Now, remember this: if this video has made you think, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Because learning to control yourself will be the real power in your life. If you want to manage emotions and turn them into strategy, you're in the right place. Emotions are so intertwined with power that most of the time, we're influenced by them without even realizing it. Fear makes you hesitate, anger forces you to make impulsive decisions, love clouds everything. Guilt makes you obedient, and pride makes you careless. Each emotion is like a musical string. If you play it right, it can create a beautiful melody. But if you manage it wrong, it leads to disaster. Calmness is not ruthlessness, it's adjustment. It's that brief moment of pause. When you feel an emotion, say, "I'm feeling this," and ask yourself this question: who benefits from this emotion? This is where the difference between a leader and the people starts to become clear. Psychologists support Machiavelli's teachings. The human mind consists of two systems. One is fast and emotional, while the other is slow and rational. Most people live in the fast system, and many carry on their lives this way. But the strong, the leaders, the strategists, and the tacticians often use the second system. They know how emotions move them, but they control them. Fear keeps you awake, anger brings discipline, desire pushes you into action. Every emotion actually holds potential. But unfortunately, most people get lost in these emotions. The strong, however, manage to turn them into a strategy. When someone angers you, belittles you, or tests you, you should pause and think instead of reacting. It's important to remember that your anger in that moment reminds you that you don't actually have power. This is a chemical reaction, a trap. Your opponent doesn't need to attack you, they just need to affect you with your own emotions. When you learn to control your biology, you no longer become an ordinary person. You become someone who operates on a different level. While others tremble, you become someone who can stand firm. You can be someone who doesn't react, but moves with thought. This is real power. Manipulators only control you with emotions. In reality, they control you not only with power but with emotions. Under everything, emotions lie. If you trigger the right emotion, you can direct the other person wherever you want, and make them feel that they're making decisions of their own will. And that's why all empires, governments, companies, and everything else are governed by emotional manipulation. At the core of everything is the ability to grasp people's feelings. It's not what's bought, but what's sold through emotion. It's not information offered, but fear. There's no need to tell you to be silent. They simply create anger, and you keep silent. This has been part of a game that has been going on for centuries. Machiavelli expressed this in his work The Prince. People move more by the fear of punishment than the expectation of reward. Today's world is a perfect example of this. Every headline, every new trend, every online ideological war actually triggers our old instincts: fear, jealousy, pride, the desire for belonging. The game is played this way. Fear is used to make you obedient. Anger is used to distract you. Guilt is used to make you compliant. And the sweet poison of hope is used to keep you constantly pulling back. Emotion is the moment when logic shuts down. It is at that moment that manipulators win. Over time, you think you believe in something, but in reality, you're being directed by their wishes. While thinking you're fighting for justice, you're actually serving their interests. This is where calmness and silence become important. Manipulators cannot affect you because you do not react to them. Even when they try to scare you, you stay steady. Even if they try to grab your attention, you don't engage. When they insult you, you don't respond. Then, the game is broken. Because silence erases your reactions, which are the manipulator's greatest weapon. This tactic is constantly applied in politics, relationships, media, and friendships. Manipulators will always study your emotional triggers. What things challenge you? What makes you angry? What situations provoke you into action? Dealing with manipulators can be difficult because they understand your emotional patterns. However, if you withdraw and remain indifferent, you will move beyond their control. As long as you don't react, they lose control over you. Now you can win their game, because when you stay unresponsive, their power fades. The manipulator's greatest fear is not changing you, but that you remain indifferent. When you remain indifferent, their power will no longer depend on your participation. You mustn't forget this: distancing yourself is not indifference, it's a form of armor. This means not giving freedom to your ego. Remember, manipulators will always try to test you, but if you see through their game, they'll be satisfied with a simple reaction from you. Withdrawing is like a muscle that needs to be developed. You should practice when you're afraid. You need to learn to stay calm when the storm shakes you. Finding peace in these moments is not easy. But by practicing, you can overcome every challenge. Emotions sometimes make us forget what we're going through. We constantly feel, but we may not realize how intense those feelings are and what triggers them. When we're experiencing inner turmoil, we are often too busy reacting. But in that moment, most of the time, we act without knowing what we're doing. Our reactions are shaped by the silent screams inside us. However, this reactive approach is actually a situation where we don't realize we're missing the opportunity to learn something. To understand this, one needs to think more deeply. Emotions are not just forces that affect or cause us to break down, but they are also like maps showing who we are and who we could become. However, often this map becomes so complex that it leads us to get lost. Our instincts are strong enough to lead us away from what's right. Anger, fear, jealousy. They all serve as signals, directing us somewhere. But when we focus on them, we may not realize that there are different paths we can take. Is it that easy? Of course not. Because life, with its different emotional responses at every moment, is a continuous learning phase until we learn how to use these reactions correctly. Acting according to our feelings, i.e., acting based on what we feel at the moment, often leads us into negative situations. People usually want to react immediately when faced with bad feelings because they seek the comfort of filling an inner void. But this relief is only a temporary solution. When we react emotionally, we don't find deep peace, we actually increase our inner chaos. This is like trying to heal a rotten tooth by taking painkillers. The pain subsides, but the problem persists. But when we start to pause and think, we can learn to manage that emotional wave. Let me explain what I mean. When we get angry or frustrated, we immediately feel the need to do something. Saying something in frustration or reacting with sadness can be examples of this. But most of the time, acting on that emotion without thinking leads us to a worse situation. If we're truly angry, reacting without understanding the source of that anger is just a wrong move. However, understanding the source and observing that moment only makes you stronger over time. Take a moment to think. When you feel anger controlling you, accepting that emotion and determining how to approach it can actually give you real power. You can ask yourself questions like, what is this anger trying to tell me? Where do I feel lacking? Because anger is just an emotion trying to control you, but when you stand against it, you increase your own power. Similarly, it's crucial to engage in a process of thinking and awareness. Fear, too, is an emotion that can affect us. We all have fear within us. Fear of uncertainty, fear of loss, loneliness. But instead of observing fear, many people prefer to retreat when faced with it. However, fear can teach us a lot. Fear can be a sign of what we value and what we're afraid of. Controlling fear means knowing yourself. That is, understanding what fear is and trying to understand it instead of running from it makes us stronger. By not surrendering to fear, not allowing it to guide you, but facing it and making decisions based on it, you can always take firmer steps. Of course, it is not easy to stay calm at every moment of life and always remain composed. Sometimes, emotions suddenly overwhelm you and make you feel lost. But what matters is how we navigate those moments. True strength is related to the attitude we adopt in those moments. Taking a step back, quietly listening to yourself, and thinking before acting, will protect you from getting lost in the moment. When you begin to understand this, even though emotions may try to control you, you can control them. Feeling strong doesn't mean being completely indifferent to your emotions, it means being in harmony with them. For example, when someone makes you angry, do you prefer to confront that anger head-on, or do you take a step back, take a deep breath, and follow the path to your inner balance? Based on my own experience, the second option tends to lead to more lasting strength. Because once those moments pass, you realize that those feelings were temporary. In short, in the chaos of life, our emotions can have a great impact. However, allowing ourselves to fall under their control means losing our power. Emotions are not just about feeling them, they also concern how we choose to respond to them. Take some time for yourself to examine your emotions and learn how to manage them better. Then, you can take control of your life. True power comes from knowing how effectively you can manage your emotions. Remember, everyone is an emotional being, but what kind of being you are is entirely your decision. Just stop and take a deep breath, then decide how you want to move forward in this world. After that, when an emotion affects you, see it as an opportunity. It reminds you what you truly value and opens a path that can empower you. Now, let's dive into a deeper perspective. The role emotions play in our inner world might not be easily noticeable from the outside. Many of us, when we respond emotionally, fail to fully realize the effect it has on us. We might dismiss it as just a passing emotion and get swept away by it. But in that moment, we might be experiencing one of the most important changes in our lives. Understanding how much each emotion affects us is about recognizing the hidden forces in life. For example, everyone has experienced fear at some point. But when we are afraid, we often succumb to the instinct to run away, instead of thinking about what we are afraid of losing. In reality, the things we fear often have no direct relation to us. The people around us, societal expectations, fear of failure. These are elements that make us feel smaller and constantly pull us in a direction. When you dig deeper into fear, you actually learn what you truly value and what you do not want to lose, and this knowledge empowers you. Instead of seeing fear solely as an enemy, it should be viewed as an empowering tool. But how you deal with it is entirely up to your choices. Emotions flow like a river, it's important to simply observe them and guide them when necessary. Because if the river gets out of control, it can take everything with it. But if directed in the right way at the right time, it can nourish you. This is exactly what strong people understand, they control their emotions. Instead of suppressing them completely, they prefer to understand them and move forward with them. Anger, like fear, is an emotion that often arises as a reaction. When you become angry with someone, your initial response is anger. In that moment, a conflict begins inside you. I shouldn't accept this, they're belittling me, I won't let them push me any further. However, the true cause of this anger is related to how much you value yourself. Your anger may simply be an instinct to protect yourself. But acting impulsively without understanding what you're truly defending only increases the chaos. Understanding anger, and instead of seeing it just as a defense mechanism, grasping the power within that moment is much more beneficial. Turning your anger into a tool, rather than reacting to it, by understanding it and seeing what it teaches you, will make you truly powerful. Like fear, anger is an emotion. But often, when we misuse this emotion, we make ourselves uncontrollable instead of mastering it. But when you take a step back, simply observing the moment and asking yourself, what is this anger telling me, your awareness grows, and you become the one who directs that emotion. It is natural to immediately react to emotions. However, taking a step back and seeing what triggers those feelings and how they affect you will give you immense power over time. Because power is not determined by emotions, it is determined by how you manage them. While many people transform the chaos of the world into anger, fear, or hatred, the strong prefer to remain calm to understand and transform that chaos. They handle their thoughts slowly, putting reactions aside and approaching each emotion from a different perspective. This is not just about the external world. What matters is understanding your inner world and realizing the reactions you give to every emotion. For instance, instead of reacting to insults or belittlement, simply pausing and observing that moment may be more meaningful. That brief moment helps you stop being an emotion-driven person and allows you to understand the emotion and become the one who governs it. Manipulators want to emotionally provoke you and then direct you. However, when you observe your emotions instead of reacting to them, you are one step ahead. Fear, anger, and jealousy are emotions that shape us. However, if you learn to guide them properly, they all can transform into powerful sources. The concept is quite simple: not reacting is real power. Dealing with manipulation, not falling under the influence of emotions like anger or fear, truly liberates you. Because in those moments, instead of losing yourself, observing your emotions and thinking strategically always makes you stronger. This applies to every area of your life, whether in personal relationships, work life, or amidst societal noise. Understanding emotions and staying unresponsive opens the path to true freedom. If you can achieve this, then anger or fear will no longer guide you. You will become an individual who charts their own course and is emotionally independent. And that is the greatest power in life.